Father makes wine. I have no doubt.
That's true.
Fine.
Half a rehearsal. Alto feature.
He didn't even.
Yeah, I know.
Now.
That was the older heat. Different then. I was gonna email him back. Oh no! Now I'm gonna get an email from you tomorrow.
How it works.
That's how it works. Send your social security. We get on Tuesday. He's gonna be like, man, I really need our Joe.
I've been hearing from all kinds of
Malware or something like serious heavy duty
So,
inside.
yeah, yeah.
For it.
Yep.
How you doing tonight?
Test, 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 test. You tell me. Test, test.
Sounded good. Twice removed.
Yeah.
Loving for your grandpa.
Yeah.
Connor really played that up for a couple weeks.
Check, check.
Yeah, he's.
ready to lie, lie, lie? I am. Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la 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 la
On behalf of Cantor Hyman and Rabbi Friedman and our president, Hank Bernstein, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And welcome. Welcome to congregants, friends, and guests, some of whom are feeling a little tired, it seems. I don't know, it was a little low energy just then. But we'll get there. We have Kabbalat Shabbat. We have the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat to lift us, and clearly we need them. So welcome to all of you who are here in the sanctuary. Welcome to all of you who are here on the live stream. Please take this moment on the live stream to introduce yourself in the comments and in the sanctuary to turn around and find someone new to greet.
I thought. I wasn't sure if it was me or not.
That makes all the difference, just that little bit, right? Maybe that was Ray who did that. Oh man, gotta buy him a beer later.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yep. Right. Bar tab.
Right.
Turn it off.
Turn it off, please. Yeah, he's funny.
He is, man. Guys. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I figured he would.
I thought anyone with that accent did. I just assumed it. You sound like you're from Penn State.
All right. Cantor Hyman suggested that it was due to daylight savings time, that we're all just in shock that it's already Shabbat, that the sun has already gone down. So we decided to give you another chance to bring some Shabbat energy by, again, saying, Shabbat Shalom. Yes, all right. And to help kindle our Shabbat lights and lead Kiddush, we welcome Ned and Fran Levy. Page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu, v'v'smatav v'tzivanu, v'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu vacharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava u'beratzon hinechaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. It's a COVID kiddush. In this week's Torah portion, Vayetze, the text teaches Jacob went out. And some of us, especially those kids who are getting vaccinated and on their way to protection, are finally going out in new ways. For me, this week, I returned to the theater, at least the school play version of the theater, and saw some high school Shakespeare with my kid. So what's harder to understand than Shakespeare? Shakespeare in masks. And yet, these kids were terrific. They were hilarious, and I'm pretty sure it was a comedy. I understood the show, well, somewhat, because they embodied the characters and the tone. Their whole bodies told the story and expressed such joy for their return to the stage. Embodiment opens the door to a fuller experience. For us too, when we embody Shabbat prayer, we experience it more fully. So sing, or sway, or dance, or tap, or clap, or breathe. Let us take a deep breath and exhale, turning from the noise of the week to the peace and the joy of Shabbat. Page 11. And to bring more energy to our singing, please rise, embody your spirit.
תודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. תודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. מי זאת עולה מן המדבר, בשושנים. ליבבתיני אחותי חלה, ליבבתיני חלה. ליבבתיני אחותי חלה, ליבבתיני חלה. דודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. דודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. אורי צפון ובואי תימן. אורי צפון ובואי תימן. דודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. דודי לי ואני לא הרואה בשושנים.
Page 24, we invite the angels of Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barechuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Now it feels like Shabbat has descended, and we are ready to welcome the Shabbat bride. L'chadodi, pages 20 and 21.
לחדודי לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתחילה, לך דודי נקרא כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם תשוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך בוני אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בשבת נקבלה.
We turn to page 28 for our call to worship.
Lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי.
In the middle of page 31, together. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change. and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravim. The top of page 33. Together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Page 37. Together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Page 39. At the middle of the page, together, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again, we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 40.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Torah tehilot, osef eleh. Torah tehilot, osef eleh. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי
Page 42.
השכיבנו אדוני Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Uforos aleinu Sukat shlomecha Uforos aleinu Sukat shlomecha Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim
Nachman of Bratslav taught, every word of one's prayer should be like a rose that is picked from a bush. One gathers rose upon rose until a bouquet is formed and can be offered to God as a beautiful blessing. Page 46, please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chaste Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umito Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Turning to page 61, let us join together in our blessing for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hambarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We take these moments for silent prayer.
Yiyu l'ratzon imre fi. Yiyu l'ratzon imre fi. V'hegion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri v'goali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, Adonai, my rock, my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen.
These words from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Prayer is like an established residence for the innermost self. All things have a home. The bird has a nest, the fox has a hole, the bee has a hive. A soul without prayer is a soul without a home. Weary, sobbing, the soul, after roaming through a world festered with aimlessness, falsehoods, and absurdities, seeks a moment in which to gather up its scattered life, in which to divest itself of enforced pretensions and camouflage, in which to simplify complexities, in which to call for help without being a coward. Such a home is prayer. Continuity, permanence, intimacy, authenticity, earnestness are its attributes. For the soul, home is where prayer is. And so we pray for healing. If you have a loved one touched by brokenness, mind, body, or spirit, please add that name to the comments or speak it aloud now.
שבירך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים. אל נא רפא לה, אל נא רפא לה, אל נא רפא לה, אל נא רפא לה. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים.
Our thoughts now move from thoughts of healing to thoughts of joy and celebration as we prepare to sing our blessing of gratitude, Shehechianu, on page 344, a blessing which thanks God for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for allowing us to reach this very moment in time. And I hope it is a special moment in some way for all of us, and that we can all think of at least one good thing maybe that happened in the past week or coming up in the next week. If you're joining us in the live stream, we invite you to write something in the chat, in the comment section. Tell us those Shehechianu moments, those simchas that you're celebrating. And as I look around the sanctuary, I see so many who are celebrating, whether seeing family they haven't seen in a while for the first time, maybe taking the next step on a dissertation. I see some recently engaged folks who are getting ready to get married soon, some folks who are beginning their Jewish journeys, some folks who are here for the first time at the synagogue ever, and some folks who are here for the first time back in a long time, and how good it is to see so many of you. For all of these wonderful, joyous moments, we join together in gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh.
We're taught in the book of Deuteronomy that when an ancient Israelite farmer brought their offerings of first fruits, the first produce of their land, to the priest at the temple, the farmer had to recite a certain set of words. Arami over avi, vayared mitzrayma vayagor sham bimtei me'at vayihisham legoy gadol atzum v'rav, often translated as, a wandering Aramean was my father, and he went down to Egypt and sojourned there with meager numbers. But there he became a great and very populous nation. Many of the medieval commentators like Rashbam and Ibn Ezra believe that this Aramean that the ancient farmers were talking about was our patriarch Jacob, who came down to Egypt with 70 of his descendants. He is called an Aramean because in this week's portion, Vayetze, we read about how he lived in Aram after fleeing from Esau and how he married Aramean women, Rachel and Leah. Rabbinic Midrash, however, Midrash is kind of like rabbi fan fiction, does not translate the first three words as my father was a wandering Aramean, but rather uses this word oved, rather to mean wandering, to actually mean destroying. And they creatively understood this phrase to mean an Aramean sought to destroy my father. Arami oved avi. The Midrash then identifies the Aramean as Jacob's father-in-law, Laban, who also in this week's portion repeatedly cheats Jacob and chases after him in a fit of rage, presumably trying to kill him. This passage, Arami oved avi, may sound familiar to some of you because we read it in the Haggadah during the Passover Seder. Rabbi Judah Low, the 16th century Maharal of Prague, offers a commentary on why we read this interesting passage in the Haggadah. He says the Haggadah does not recall the hatred of Esau, who had reason to hate since Jacob took his blessing. And it does not recall the pursuit by Pharaoh after Israel, because that was in order to return them to Egypt. If they would not return, then he would have to make war against them. But Laban had no reason to hate Jacob, who had done so much for him. Hatred without reason. This is what our sages call sinat chinam, baseless hatred. Hatred is wrong, but as the Maharal points out, sinat chinam, hatred without any justification, is all the more vile. This type of hatred, the disdain for a person's very being, not because of any specific act, is the basis of much of the bigotry we see in this world and at the core of anti-Semitism. This hatred is rooted in othering and dehumanizing another person or an entire group. In another commentary on this week's portion, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory writes, Laban is in fact the first anti-Semite. In age after age, Jews sought refuge from those like Esau who sought to kill them. The nations who gave them refuge seemed at first to be benefactors, but the host society then eventually turned against them. They claimed that Jews were exploiting them rather than what it was, in fact, the case that they were exploiting the Jews. And when Jews succeeded, they accused them. Laban was the first, but not the last. Earlier this week, we marked 83 years since Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, a pogrom against Jews throughout Nazi Germany from November 9th to 10th. The German authorities looked on without intervening while the windows of Jewish-owned stores, businesses, and synagogues were smashed. Jewish homes, hospitals, and schools were ransacked as attackers demolished buildings with sledgehammers. Rioters destroyed 267 synagogues throughout Germany and Austria. Over 7,000 Jewish businesses were damaged or destroyed, and 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and incarcerated in concentration camps. It's an interesting historical note that we also observed Veterans Day this week, which marks the armistice signed between the allies of World War I and Germany, which of course was on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. In his book, Loyalty Betrayed, Jewish Chaplains in the German Army During the First World War, author Peter Applebaum notes that many German Jews saw the Great War, the First World War, as an important opportunity to prove their commitment to the German homeland. The book then writes about the Judenzählung, German for the Jewish census, a measure designed to confirm accusations of the lack of patriotism and participation among German Jews during the war. The census actually disproved these charges. Jews were very active, but its results were never made public. And in many ways, this helped lay the foundation for Hitler's rise to power. Imagine those German Jews who were attacked and made to feel other, made to feel like foreigners in their own land on November 9th, 1938, just days before they were commemorating the sacrifice that so many in their own Jewish communities had made for their German homeland a mere 20 years earlier. And we need not look back 83 years. Laban's sinat chinam, that baseless hatred, is still with us today, right here in America. 2020 was the third highest year for anti-Semitic incidents against Jews since the Anti-Defamation League began tracking that data in 1979. Over 50% of all religious bias crimes in 2020 were targeted against Jews, who only make up 2% of the population. And 41% of all Americans said they witnessed an anti-Semitic incident in person or online against Jews over the past 12 months. In his book, Jews Don't Count, author David Bodiel argues that those who think of themselves on the right side of history have often ignored the history of anti-Semitism. He outlines why and how, in a time of intensely heightened awareness of minorities, anti-Semitism is still alive and well. On December 8th, our readers' book group will gather to discuss David Bodiel's book, Jews Don't Count. I hope you'll consider joining us for this wonderful discussion. David Bodiel does an excellent job of laying out the very real problems of anti-Semitism today, but he doesn't really give us any practical solutions to the problem of complicit anti-Semitism in the West. But perhaps this very book is part of that answer. By lifting up the problem, we can begin to educate ourselves and others. Education, dialogue, getting to know one another, these are the ways in which we combat the baseless hatred of sinat chinam. Hatred of Jews is not a Jewish problem. Anti-Semitism is often a sign of an intolerant society. By ignoring it, we grant society a broader license to hate. All individuals should care about anti-Semitism in order to build a society that is more compassionate, educated, and committed to the values of human dignity for all. Making hatred of Jews socially unacceptable requires Jewish allies to be invested in creating a more compassionate and caring community. I find it amazing that the first thing the ancient Israelite farmer was commanded to do when harvesting those very first fruits of their labors was to utter this phrase, Arami Oved Avi, recalling this week's Parsha, Vayetze, recalling the story of Jacob and Laban, of Rachel and Leah, a story ultimately all about othering, a story about sinat chinam, baseless hatred. I believe the message is clear. When we are no longer refugees, and once we are established in our own land, and we have a chance to have power, we have a chance to offer gratitude, we must not forget, we must never forget how easily hatred and sinat chinam can rear its ugly head when it goes unchecked. We must not take it for granted. Hate sadly still exists in this world, and we have an obligation, an opportunity, all of us, to call it out, to educate ourselves, and to educate others. May we continue to do the work And may we live, God willing, speedily and soon, in a time when hate will have no place here. Amen. We rise now as we turn in our prayer books to page 282, followed by 287 for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, ואלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Yesh kochavim. There are stars up above. So far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. This week, our congregation observes Yahrzeit for Sidney F. Adler, Elaine S. Baker, S. Donald Bean, Harold Becker, Siegfried Brenman, Jack Cantor, Esther Cohen, Lillian Cohen, Michael Cohen, Isaac Gerassi, Violet G.S. Dubois, Edward L. Epstein, Simon Feldenheimer, Sarah Lee Feldman, Harold Finkelman, Jenny Fisher, Florence B. Frank, Lena Frank, Zerlene Frankel, Zelda Lewis Frieder, Blanche Schwartz Friedman, Pauline Gilbert, Estelle Gilman, Jacob Gimbel, Ann Goldberg, Bella Stein Goodman, S. Lewis Goodman, Joseph Greenberg, Isidore Hers, Paul Hogan, Samuel Katz, Jack Kaufman, Henry Kimmelman, Sonny Kermans, Muriel G. Korn, Morton Crace, Anna Krieger, Sarah Summer Leipziger, Howard C. Leopold, Morton W. Levy, Hannah L. Levy, Nettie Levy, Abraham Levin, Samuel H. Levy, Sophie Cohn-Lipman, Jerome Lowe, Samuel K. Lockheim, Selma Jonas Magaziner, Richard Hartz Mann, Marguerite McLaughlin, Sarah Hurwitz Novak, Joseph Oberdorfer, Walter J. O'Brien, Martin Oppenheimer, Harry E. Paris, Bernice Rhodes, Theodore Reback, Zephyr M. Rose, Ann Oppenheimer Rosenau, Harry Rosenberg, Elsie Osman Rosenblum, Janice Schwartz Sash, Benjamin E. Sattler, Randy David Schlee, A. Lewis Siegel, Betty Z. Shapiro, William Shore, Rita Silver, Nathan Spells, Sidney Spielberg, Ellis Spunt, Ann Stedman, Herb Stein, Albert Strickler, Madeline H. Tress, Mayor Wax, Samuel Adler West, Georgina Pete Weiner, Nathan S. Wolf, Ida Jaffe Zaslow. And we add the names of those who've been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts in these most recent days, for whom we are observing Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning. Alan R. Gedrich, Ronnie Jane Schwam, Joseph Yamron. If you are observing Yahrzeit or Shloshim for a loved one whose name was not mentioned, I invite you to write their names in the comments or to speak their names aloud at this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We turn to page 294 and rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach urtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam olmei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha brichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace and comfort to us all, and let us say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
We wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. If this is your first time with us, we hope that you'll introduce yourself to our wonderful membership manager, Stephen Scher, who's waving right there in the back. And I think the weather is looking good, so please join us afterwards for Oneg out in the Foreman family courtyard, and we will conclude in song.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chunecha.
May God's light shine upon us, and may God be gracious unto us.
Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence be with us always and grant us the most precious gift, the gift of peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.